Indonesia, the vast archipelago of more than 17,000 islands, has long been a cradle of myths shaped by ancient Hindu epics, indigenous animist beliefs, and the oceanic soul of the Nusantara people. From the royal courts of Java to the shadow puppets of Bali, heroes, demons, and gods come alive in a world where sacred mountains pierce the sky and serpents sleep beneath the seas. At the heart of Indonesian mythology lies the Ramayana of the Nusantara, known through the Javanese and Balinese tradition as Kakawin Ramayana. Though inspired by the Indian Ramayana, Indonesia's version transforms into a uniquely local epic filled with volcanic battles, ocean spirits, forest guardians, and celestial beings who watch over kingdoms blessed by both sunlight and shadow. In this story, the noble hero Rama Wijaya, his loyal brother Laksmana, and the divine monkey general Hanuman journey across enchanted islands to rescue the radiant princess Shinta, whose purity glows brighter than moonlight. Their enemy is the mighty Rawana, a demon king who rules from the golden citadel of Alenka, a kingdom built on black volcanic stone and surrounded by roaring seas. This Indonesian retelling is not merely a tale of love and war, it is a reflection of the Nusantara soul, the harmony between humans, spirits, and nature, the eternal battle between dharma and chaos, and the belief that destiny is shaped by courage, loyalty, and sacrifice. Chapter 1: The Birth of Rama, Wijaya, and the Blessing of the Devas. The kingdom of Yogyakarta lay like a jewel upon the fertile plains of Java, surrounded by misty mountains and rivers that glistened beneath the morning sun. Travelers from Bali, Sumatra, and even distant Borneo often spoke of its prosperity, its scholars, and its warriors. But above all, they spoke of its sacred lineage, for Yogyakarta was said to be blessed by the Devas themselves. King Dasaratha, its revered ruler, was a monarch of wisdom and restraint. Though his beard had turned silver and his back bowed slightly with age, his eyes remained sharp and full of the fire of leadership. Yet, as seasons passed, one after another, a sorrow grew in his heart. He had no heir to inherit the throne. The court priests sensed the king's grief, for they saw him walking alone in the palace gardens at twilight, staring at the horizon as if pleading silently with the heavens. In the far corners of the kingdom, whispers spread from village to village. The people prayed for an heir, lighting incense and offering flowers beneath banyan trees where spirits were believed to dwell. The land itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for destiny to unfold. At last, after many years, the royal priests approached King Dasaratha with solemn faces. "Your Majesty," said the high priest, "the time has come. The heavens have spoken in dreams. Prepare for the sacred Ashwamedha Yena. Through this rite, the blessing of the Devas will descend, and the kingdom will receive the children destined to guide humanity." The king knelt, his forehead touching the temple floor. "If the Devas will it, I shall obey." The preparations lasted 40 days and nights. Hundreds of artisans carved sacred symbols into ceremonial chariots. Warriors guarded the temple gates. Priests bathed the altars with rose water, coconut milk, and oils infused with sandalwood. Balinese dancers, adorned in golden headdresses, performed sacred movements symbolizing the balance of the world, the harmony between light and shadow, between humans and spirits. When the ritual began, the sky filled with swirling clouds, as if the heavens themselves leaned closer. Torches flickered, drums thundered, and the priests chanted mantras in ancient Kawai. their voices rising like wind sweeping across the ocean. At the final moment of the ceremony, a radiant light descended from the heavens. It was neither blinding nor harsh. It flowed gently, like moonlight touching the surface of calm water. From within that divine glow emerged a celestial being, the sage, Narada, messenger of the Devas. King Dasaratha bowed with trembling hands. "O great sage, I seek only the blessing of heirs to continue the line of Ayodhya-Karta." Narada smiled, his eyes shining with the clarity of enlightenment. "O noble king, your devotion has reached the ears of the gods. The Devas have prepared the souls of 4 divine beings to descend into your household. Their births will bring balance to the world, for the forces of chaos are rising." With a gesture, Narada summoned a golden vessel shimmering with holy fire. "From this sacred essence, your queens shall conceive. Treat them well, and the children born to them shall be extraordinary." And so the blessing came to pass. Queen Kausalya, the gentle and dignified first consort, gave birth to a child whose eyes shone like stars reflected in a tranquil lake. The moment he cried, the palace trembled softly, and lotus flowers bloomed even in the driest patches of soil. "He shall be named Rama Vajja," declared the high priest, "a soul born of Dharma, destined to uphold righteousness in the world." Queen Sumitra bore twins, Laxmana and Satrughan, children whose spirits were intertwined with loyalty and courage. Queen Kaikeyi gave birth to Bharata, whose compassion was said to be unmatched. Together, the 4 princes were destined to anchor the balance of the universe, though none yet understood the magnitude of their paths. Rama Vajja grew with a grace that astonished even the most learned sages. As a child, he walked with the posture of a warrior, yet his smile carried the softness of a healer. When he touched the palace garden's trees, their leaves seemed to shimmer. Birds often followed him from courtyard to courtyard, singing melodies that had not been heard for generations. By the age of 10, Rama had already mastered scripts written in palm leaf manuscripts. At 12, he could wield a bow carved from sacred teakwood, drawing it with a strength that impressed even the generals of Ayodhya-Karta. But it was his heart, gentle, disciplined, and filled with empathy, that won the admiration of his people. Lakshmana, his inseparable brother, stood by his side like a shadow of loyalty. Where Rama offered compassion, Lakshmana offered resolve. Where Rama sought balance, Lakshmana sought justice. The two were as inseparable as the sun and its light. As years passed, Rama's virtues began to spread beyond the kingdom. Word reached priests, hermits, and mystics living on volcanic slopes or deep within the forests of Sumatra. They spoke of him with reverence, whispering that he carried the essence of Vishnu, the preserver of worlds. But the boy himself remained unaware of such prophecies. He studied, trained, and served his father with humility, believing his purpose was simply to protect his people. Yet far beyond the tranquil borders of Ayodhya-Karta, a storm was forming. Across the churning seas, on the island kingdom of Alenka, the demon king Ravana sat upon his throne of obsidian. His 10 heads murmured among themselves, each voice full of ambition, hunger, and pride. His armies grew, his influence spread across islands shrouded in volcanic ash, and his thirst for dominance deepened. One night, as lightning tore open the sky and thunder rolled like drums of war, Ravana gazed into a pool of enchanted water. The reflection he saw was not his own, it was that of a young prince in radiant blue light, drawing a bow that glowed like the heart of the sun. Rama Wijaya, Rawana growled, his voices merging into one. So, the Devas have sent their champion. He rose to his full, towering height, his 10 faces twisting with a grin of challenge and anticipation. Let him come. Let destiny unfold. For when gods favor a hero, it only means the demon king must rise higher. Thus began the first stirring of the great clash between Dharma and chaos, an echo of fate stretching across the islands of the Nusantara. Chapter 2. The Prophecy of Mount Merapi and the Shadow in the East. The island of Java had always breathed like a living spirit, Tip's forests whispering with unseen presence, its rivers singing ancient songs, and its mountains standing as guardians of the sky. Among them, Mount Merapi towered as the holiest and most feared. Its slopes were covered in thick jungle, home to countless spirits, and its summit glowed red on nights when the world below trembled with omens. It was to this sacred mountain that the young crown prince Arjuna Putra journeyed at dawn, accompanied only by a small retinue of loyal guards. Though he was barely 17, the people of the kingdom of Nusantara already spoke of him as a leader blessed by the gods. His hair carried the color of burnt copper, his eyes the deep calm of river stones, and his spirit burned with both humility and determination. But today, even Aruna's calm heart felt the weight of uncertainty. The high priests of the capital had summoned him urgently, declaring that the spirits of Merapi demanded his presence. A prophecy had returned, one spoken only once every 1,000 years. And so Arjuna climbed, the mountain's air growing colder with each step. The wind howled as if warning him. Yet he pressed onward until he reached the great stone temple perched on the mountain's middle slope. There, carved into basalt pillars, were ancient runes, older than kingdoms, older than memory. At the entrance stood Arsi Mahadua, the oldest sage in Nusantara, whose white beard flowed like river mist. His eyes shone with unnatural clarity. "You have come," the sage said, leaning on a staff carved with Naga scales. "The prophecy awakens again." Arjuna bowed. "Great Arsi, I come to hear the will of the gods." The sage nodded gravely and led him into the heart of the temple, lit only by torches of burning resin. The inner chamber held a single stone pedestal, upon which rested an object wrapped in cloth. A faint humming, like the sound of distant gamelan, filled the air. "This," Mahadua whispered, "is the Keris Pusaka Naga Kenkana, the sacred blade forged by the dragon's myths of the undersea realm. It has remained dormant for generations." With trembling hands, he lifted the cloth, revealing a crease blade that shimmered like liquid gold, etched with swirling patterns that resembled the coils of a celestial serpent. "When the blade awakens," the sage continued, "so too does the shadow prophesied to consume the islands." Arjuna felt a chill touch his spine. "What shadow?" Mahadua turned to the temple wall and touched an ancient mural. It depicted a massive serpent coiled around the archipelago, its fangs dripping black fire. Above it floated a terrifying figure, neither man nor beast, shrouded in darkness. "This," the sage said softly, "is Rangdanagara, the devourer of dawn, a demon queen born from hatred and chaos. She was sealed long ago by the combined strength of the gods and the guardians of Java." Arjuna frowned. "I have heard of Rangda, the witch queen of Bali, but this name—" "They are one and the same," Mahadua said, "or rather, fragments of the same primordial being. Rangdanagara is her true form, one that has slept beneath the eastern islands for 1,000 years. Silence filled the chamber as Aruna's heartbeat echoed in his ears. The prophecy says, Mahadua recited, when Merapi breathes fire and the seas turn dark, the Serpent Queen shall rise to reclaim her broken crown. Aruna swallowed, his throat tight. What must I do? You must take the Naga Kinkana, the sage said, for only one chosen by the mountain spirit can wield it. With this blade, you will seek the guardians scattered across the islands Garuda of the southern winds, Dewi Sri of the rice fields, Barong of Bali, and the forest spirits of Kalimantan. You must unite them, for only together can they withstand the storm to come. Aruna stepped toward the blade, feeling heat radiate from it like the breath of a living creature. When he wrapped his fingers around the hilt, a shock of energy surged through him. Visions flooded his mind. He saw raging oceans swallowing islands. He saw forests burning under black fire. He saw a colossal serpent, and in the midst of the destruction, he saw a pair of glowing red eyes filled with hate and hunger. Aruna gasped and fell to his knees. Mahadua steadied him. These are but echoes of what may come, not what must come. The prince breathed deeply, shaking off the terror. He rose with renewed resolve. Then I will not allow the prophecy to pass. I will journey across the archipelago. I will gather the guardians. But the sage hesitated. There is more. A truth I had hoped the gods would spare you from. Aruna stiffened. Speak it. The prophecy also says that the warrior chosen to face Rangdanagara will pay a price. A sacrifice demanded by the balance of the world. What sacrifice? Aruna asked quietly. The sage looked away. The prophecy does not say outside. Thunder erupted suddenly, though no storm cloud was in sight. The ground trembled beneath their feet as a rumble echoed from deep within the mountain. Merapi, the spirit of fire, was stirring. Aruna tightened his grip on the golden crease, feeling its warmth pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. If sacrifice is required, he said, voice steady, then I will accept it. For the sake of Nusantara. Mahadua bowed deeply. Then may the gods walk beside you, Prince of Dawn. As Aruna stepped out of the temple, the first light of sunrise pierced the horizon, painting the sky in crimson and gold. Yet far to the east, above distant islands, a strange darkness lingered like a bruise upon the sky. The shadow of Rangdanagara had begun to awaken. Chapter 3. The journey begins, and the spirit of the southern winds. Aruna Wijaya descended Mount Merapi as the sun climbed higher into the sky, its golden rays piercing through drifting clouds that wrapped the mountain like a shroud. His retinue of guards waited at the foothills, watching him emerge with wide eyes. The golden-bladed Naga Kinkana hung at his side, glowing faintly even under daylight. The eldest guard, Captain Jayanagara, stepped forward. My prince, the air around you feels different. Did the prophecy speak to you? Aruna nodded, his expression hardened by what he had learned. A shadow stirs in the eastern isles. We travel now not back to the palace, but to the southern coast. There, the winds will guide us to the first guardian. Rumors of ancient guardians were familiar to the people, told in bedtime tales and festival dances. But Aruna spoke not of myths. He had seen glimpses of them in the visions from the sacred blade, and he knew the first step in his journey was to find Garuda Engin Selatan, the lord of the southern winds. The company set out through dense forests alive with cicadas, past villages where farmers paused to bow respectfully as the prince passed. Children stared with awe at the gleaming crease, whispering among themselves that the gods had chosen Aruna for something greater than mortal life. By dusk, they reached the wetlands bordering the southern coastline. The sky was painted in streaks of orange and purple, and herons glided silently over the still waters. Yet there was something uneasy in the wind, an unnatural heaviness that made the leaves tremble. As camp was made beneath towering mangrove trees, Arjuna stood alone at the water's edge. The salty breeze brushed his face, carrying faint whispers, voices too soft to understand, yet filled with urgency. "You hear them, don't you?" The voice belonged to Ayun, a young herbalist who had joined the journey at Mahadua's request. Her knowledge of plants, poisons, and healing arts was unmatched among the villages. With bright eyes and a calm presence, she approached quietly, holding a basket of herbs. "I hear something," Arjuna admitted, "as if the wind itself is trying to speak." Ayun knelt beside the water, dipping her fingers into the tide. "This coast is sacred. The spirits of wind and sea often reveal themselves near sundown, when the worlds overlap." Arjuna gazed at her. "Why did the sage Mahadua ask you to join us?" Ayun smiled faintly. "Because even the bravest warriors fall when poison enters their blood, or when wounds fester. Mahadua knows your journey will not be without danger." Before Arjuna could respond, a sudden gust swept across the mangrove forest, so fierce that torches flickered and the guards reached for their weapons. The tide churned violently, as if an unseen force stirred beneath. "Prince Arjuna," Rangdanagara shouted, "something is coming." The sky darkened, though the sun had not fully set. A roar echoed from above, not the roar of a beast, but of a storm wind breaking through the heavens. Arjuna felt the Naga Kinkana pulse at his side. "Stand back, something descends." The clouds spiraled down, forming a vortex of dust and light. The winds whipped in circles, lifting leaves and tearing them apart mid-air. The guards shielded their faces. Ayun held onto a mangrove route, and the entire shoreline trembled. Then, from the heart of the swirling storm, a gigantic shadow emerged, wings wide as ships' sails, feathers gleaming like polished bronze. With a thunderous cry, the creature descended, scattering sand across the beach. A giant birdno, a celestial being, stood before them. His golden plumage shimmered even in twilight, and his eyes burned with the intelligence of ancient gods. His wings folded gracefully as he stepped forward, towering above Arjuna by several meters. "I am Garuda Angin Selaton," the creature spoke, his voice echoing like booming drums. "The southern winds carry your name, Arjuna Wijaya. The mountain spirit has chosen you." Arjuna stepped forward without fear, bowing respectfully. "Great Garuda, I seek your guidance." A shadow rises in the east. Rangdanagara awakens. "I must gather the guardians to face her." Garuda studied him closely. "Many have spoken of destiny, but few understand its burden. Tell me, Prince, why do you accept this path? Why not leave it to warriors, older or wiser?" Arjuna felt the weight of those words, but his answer came from deep within. "Because the land calls to me. Because the visions I saw were not distant possibilities, they were warnings. If I do nothing, Nusantara will drown in darkness. If sacrifice is needed, I will offer it. If courage is demanded, I must rise." The great bird tilted his head. "And would you face death, young prince? If death means the survival of my people, then yes." Garuda's eyes glowed with ancient approval. "Then you are worthy of the first blessing." He extended one massive wing, and a gust of divine wind enveloped Arjuna. The air burned cold and hot at once, swirling in patterns like the currents of hurricanes. Arjuna gasped as energy surged through his body. "You now carry the blessing of southern winds," Garuda declared. "You may call upon the gale, bend the breeze, and command the storms. But use this power with restraint, for the winds are loyal only to justice." Arjuna steadied his breath. The air around him felt lighter, alive, as though listening to his heartbeat. Jayanelga knelt. "My prince, your orits changed." Ayun, watching closely, whispered, "You carry the sky itself." But Garuda's tone grew grave. "Know this, Arjuna Wijaya, a darkness stirs on the eastern isles. The seas have whispered of serpents rising from the depths. Fires burn beneath the earth. Rangdanagara gathers strength, and she is not alone." Arjuna's brow tightened. "What do you mean?" Garuda spread his wings, casting a massive shadow across the mangroves. "She awakens the legion of the midnight tides, creatures born from ancient hatred. If she succeeds, even the gods will tremble." Silence fell as the wind died suddenly. "Go now," Garuda commanded. "Your next destination is Bali Dupa, the island where Barong, guardian of light, dances eternally in the struggle against shadow. He will test you, but if you succeed, you will gain a powerful ally." Arjuna bowed deeply. "I will not fail." The great bird rose with a single beat of his wings, lifting into the sky in a burst of blinding light. The winds calmed, the clouds drifted apart, and Garuda vanished into the heavens. The guards stared wordlessly. Ayun approached Arjuna, placing a hand gently over his crossing. "The journey has begun, Arjuna, and the world is watching." Arjuna looked toward the horizon, toward the dark line of the distant sea. "Tomorrow," he said, gripping the golden crease tightly, "we sail to Bali." Chapter 4: The Flame of Dua Agni. The red sun dipped behind the rugged mountains of Java, leaving the sky streaked with burning gold. Arjuna Putra, the chosen warrior, still felt the lingering chill of the ancient temple where he had received the divine omen. But destiny allowed no pause. As he entered the valley of Gunung Kelam, the earth trembled beneath his feet, pulsing like the heartbeat of a hidden beast. Birds erupted from the canopy, fleeing toward the darkening sky. A roar shattered the air. From the center of the valley, a column of black smoke spiraled upward like a wounded dragon. Sparks erupted. The air thickened with the bitter scent of sulfur. Rakshasabara, the fire demon, sealed away since the age of the old gods, had awakened. He loomed as tall as 3 palm trees, his skin cracked like volcanic stone, his eyes blazing like molten coal. Each heavy step sank the ground, trees splintering beneath his feet. Villagers at the foot of the mountain scattered in terror, their cries echoing through the wild forest. Arjuna Putra tightened his grip on the sacred keris. Its blade gleamed silver, thrumming with a strange heat, as if sensing the presence of its ancient enemy. "Young warrior," a deep, resonant voice drifted from the mountain's peak. A radiant figure emerged from a swirl of flame. Dua Agni, the god of fire, his body shimmered like a living inferno. Yet the flames did not consume anything around him. He was the purity of fire, creation and destruction held together in balance. "The demon you face is beyond the strength of mortals," Dua Agni said. "My flame shall become your shield and your burden." He extended his hand. A crimson ember, glowing like a ruby at sunrise, floated through the air and sank into Arjuna Putra's chest. The world ignited. Heat surged through his veins. His breath turned into white steam. His eyes reflected glowing embers, fierce and unblinking. He was no longer merely a warrior. He had become the bearer of Agni's flame mark, a symbol of divine destiny and immense responsibility. But great power always demanded great trials. Rakshasabara roared and charged toward the village. With a single sweep of his burning arm, he uprooted an entire row of coconut trees, setting them ablaze. Arjuna Putra leaped forward, Karas flashing like a streak of lightning. Fire collided with fire, demon as fury against god as blessing, and the explosion tore through the valley like thunder. The battle shook the earth. Infernal fire sought to consume all. Sacred fire sought to protect. And Arjuna Putra stood between them, tested not only in strength, but in spirit. At last, the demon retreated, stepping back toward the cavern where it had once been sealed. Before vanishing into the darkness, its voice thundered, "My flames are only the beginning. Night is rising. You cannot stop it." Darkness swallowed him whole. The Karas, Arjuna Putra stood trembling, his limbs heavy with exhaustion, but his resolve sharper than ever. Dua Agni appeared once more, placing a fiery hand on the warrior's shoulder. "Before the demon returns, you must find the 3 divine relics scattered across the islands. Only with them can the darkness be broken." Arjuna Putra lifted his gaze. "Where is the first relic, O Lord of Fire?" The mountain wind whispered ancient voices. "On the island of Bali," Dua Agni answered, "hidden under the guardianship of Barong, the divine lion." And so, a new journey began, across seas, through sacred forests, toward forgotten relics and old gods, as Arjuna Putra walked deeper into the heart of destiny. Chapter 5. The Lion Guardian of Bali. The journey to Bali began at dawn, when the sea still shimmered like polished obsidian and the horizon glowed faintly with the promise of a new day. Arjuna Putra boarded a narrow wooden vessel carved with serpent motifs, a traditional juchong guided by 2 seasoned sailors who knew the ocean as moods as if they were old companions. Winds whispered warnings across the waves. Storm clouds gathered on the far horizon. But Arjuna Putra kept his eyes fixed forward. The relic awaited him. As they crossed the strait, the waters began to churn. The once gentle sea rose in frothing crescents, striking the boat with growing violence. The sailors exchanged fearful glances. "This is no ordinary storm," one muttered. "Something beneath the water is stirring." Before Arjuna Putra could respond, a massive shadow passed under the boat, long and sinuous, like a river serpent, moving with impossible speed. The sea erupted. A colossal Naga lot, guardian spirit of the strait, rose from the depths. Its scales glistened like wet emeralds, its whiskers as long as palm fronds, its eyes luminous with ancient intelligence. The sailors fell to their knees in terror, but the Naga did not attack. It bowed its head toward Arjuna Putra, sending ripples across the stormy sea. Bearer of Agni's flame, the serpent's voice echoed directly inside his mind. "Your path leads to Bali, where the first relic sleeps. But tread carefully. The island is stirring with forces neither divine nor mortal." Arjuna Putra pressed a fist to his chest in respect. "I seek only the relic that will help banish the rising darkness." The Naga's eyes dimmed with memory. Darkness grows because it has been invited. Something in Bali hungers for power. With one sweeping motion of its tail, the sea calmed, the storm broke apart, and sunlight returned like a blessing. The serpent sank back into the depths, leaving silence in its wake. The boat continued smoothly until it reached the tranquil shores of Bali. Bali greeted Arjuna Putra with lush jungles, towering banyan trees draped with moss, and carved stone shrines guarded by cloth-wrapped statues. Incense drifted through the air, mingling with the scent of frangipani flowers. Yet beneath the island's serene beauty, something felt unsettled. Villagers whispered of shadows moving at night, of spirits stirred from their ancient slumber, and of something far more terrifying, a growing rift between two powerful forces, Barong, the divine lion of light, and Rangda, the witch queen of chaos. The balance of Bali hung by a thread. Arjuna Putra followed a narrow stone path into the deep forest, where sunlight filtered through the leaves like shards of gold. The ground thrummed faintly, as if resonating with the island's heartbeat. By midday, he reached the sacred forest of Bangkasa, where moss-covered statues of lions lined the pathways. The air shimmered with enchantment. A low rumble vibrated through the trees. Bushes parted, birds scattered, and from the shadows emerged a towering figure, Barong. His body resembled a lion, but adorned with swirling gold ornaments, bright red fur, and sacred carvings that glowed with inner light. His eyes were deep and ancient, full of wisdom, yet sharpened by vigilance. Arjuna Putra dropped to one knee. Great Barong, guardian of Bali, I seek the divine relic under your protection. Barong's voice echoed through the forest, not spoken aloud, but resonating through earth and air. The relic you seek is the heart mirror, the light that reveals truth. But it cannot leave this island while Rangda spreads corruption. A sharp wind sliced through the trees. Leaves swirled violently. From the dark edge of the forest, a chilling presence approached, a whispering of broken bones, of curses older than kingdoms. Rangda, her hair draped down like black serpents, wild and twisting. Her eyes were hollow pits of hunger. Her fingers ended in long iron claws, stained with ancient blood. As she stepped forward, the ground rotted beneath her feet. The relic belongs to me, she hissed. With it, I will open the gates of the underworld and swallow Bali whole. Barong's mane bristled. The forest trembled. Arjuna Putra stepped between them, Karas glowing faintly with Agni's flame. Rangda, leave this place, he commanded, though even he felt the icy touch of fear creeping up his spine. She laughed, a sound like shattering bone. With a single gesture of her clawed hand, black magic erupted toward Arjuna Putra like a storm of shadow needles. He raised his Karas, and the flame within him surged to life. Light blazed outward, incinerating the dark spell in a crack of thunder. Barong leaped forward, roaring with divine fury. Rangda screeched, darkness swirling around her like a cyclone. The clash of light and chaos shook the forest. But Rangda was not yet ready for a full confrontation. With a final hiss, she vanished into a whirlwind of black mist, leaving a stench of decay behind her. Silence returned. Barong lowered his head toward Arjuna Putra. To earn the heart mirror, you must face a trial, one that tests not your strength, but your soul. Arjuna Putra nodded without hesitation. I am ready. Barong's eyes glowed like twin suns. Then step into my light, warrior. Let truth reveal what even fire cannot burn. And as Arjuna Putra stepped forward, the forest dissolved into radiance, beginning the greatest test of his spirit yet. Chapter 6, The Trial of the Heart Mirror Light swallowed Arjuna Putra whole. Where the sacred forest of Bangkasa once stood, There now stretched an endless expanse of shimmering white, neither sky nor earth, but a boundless realm of pure illumination. Every sound faded, replaced by a steady pulse, like the heartbeat of the world itself. He stood alone, unarmed, stripped of the charis, stripped of Agni's flame, stripped of everything except his breath and his bare resolve. A voice resonated through the light. This is the realm of reflection. Nothing here can harm you except the truth. Barong's presence surrounded him, though the guardian himself did not appear in physical form. To wield the heart mirror, you must first confront the shadows within yourself. Arjuna Putra inhaled deeply. Show me what must be faced. The light rippled. A silhouette emerged before him, small, trembling eyes clouded with grief. It was himself, as a child, standing beside the smoking ruins of his village. Flames still clung to the timbers. Bodies lay motionless under blankets of ash. His mother's voice echoed faintly in the distance, a fading memory of warmth. Then came the roar, the same roar that had shaped the rest of his life. From the burning ruins rose the monstrous form of Rakshasabara, the fire demon who had slaughtered his people. The beast loomed high, molten eyes burning with hatred. The child Arjuna fell to his knees in terror. But the adult Arjuna stood firm. Barong's voice whispered, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is refusing to bow before it." The demon lunged, flames erupting from its jaws. Arjuna Putra did not reach for a weapon he no longer possessed. Instead, he stepped forward and embraced the burning image, letting the fire swallow him whole. Pain seared through his bones, but it was not real, only memory. Fear dissolved. The demon shattered into 1,000 sparks. A second image emerged. Arjuna Putra now stood on the edge of a misty cliff. Before him hovered two ghostly figures, both of them versions of himself. The first was mighty and armored, with eyes hardened by countless battles. His presence crackled with power, but there was no warmth, no compassion. A warrior consumed by violence. The second figure was frail, hesitant, gentle, to the point of naivety. He held no weapon. His eyes were full of sorrow and unspoken regret. Barong spoke. One self is strength without mercy. The other is mercy without strength. The two phantoms rushed at him, each seeking to claim his spirit. Arjuna Putra closed his eyes. He reached out and placed a hand on each of their chests. "I am neither of you," he whispered. "I am balanced strength guided by compassion." The phantoms dissolved into smoke. A third and final vision formed. Arjuna Putra found himself inside a dimly lit shrine. Before him stood a tall figure wrapped in dark cloth, its face hidden in shadow. "Who are you?" Arjuna asked. The figure stepped forward. Its voice was his own. "I am what you fear most." The shadow Arjuna raised a blade, identical to the sacred charis, and pointed it at his throat. "You fear becoming the monster you killed. You fear that the fire within you will one day consume you." Arjuna Putra stood still, breath steady. "Yes," he said softly, "but fear does not define me." The shadow lunged. Arjuna Putra did not fight, did not strike back, did not flee. He simply stepped forward into the blade and embraced his shadow, just as he had embraced his fear. The dark figure broke apart into pure radiance. The realm of reflection trembled. The white expanse shattered like glass. Arjuna Putra fell to his knees on the forest floor back in the sacred forest of Bangkasa. Barong stood before him, glowing like a rising sun, his eyes full of approval. "You have faced yourself and remained whole," Barong proclaimed. "Therefore, the heart mirror is yours." From his mane, Barong produced a radiant relic, a circular disc made of polished crystal, its center swirling with inner light. To gaze into it was to see one's true soul. Arjuna Putra accepted it reverently, but Barong's expression darkened. Rangda will not stay hidden for long. She seeks to break the barrier between realms. A chill crawled along Arjuna Putra's spine. What must I do now? Barong stepped aside, revealing a pathway deeper into the forest, one that had not existed before. Travel north to the sacred volcano, Gunung Batur. There you will find the next guardian, the Serpent Twins of Lake Batur. His voice thundered like distant drums. And beware, warrior, where there is truth, there is always deception waiting to twist it. With the heart mirror secured and the path ahead illuminated, Arjuna Putra stepped forward toward new trials, deeper shadows, and the awakening of forces older than the islands themselves. Chapter 7. The Serpent Twins of Lake Batur. The journey northward from Bali's sacred forest was treacherous, weaving through jagged cliffs and dense jungles where shadows seemed to move with intent. Arjuna Putra, bearing the heart mirror, moved with the cautious steps of one who had faced the inner trials of fear and doubt. Yet even the victories of spirit could not shield him from the perils that awaited in the physical world. By the third day, he arrived at the serene waters of Lake Batur. Its surface, a perfect mirror, reflecting the towering presence of Gunung Batur. The lake seemed calm, almost sacred, yet the air was thick with an unspoken tension, as though unseen eyes were watching, waiting. Legends spoke of the Serpent Twins, Naga Api and Naga Api, guardians of the lake who had existed since the dawn of the islands. One embodied the purity of water, life-giving and serene. The other, the shadow of corruption and chaos, sly and cunning. Together, they balanced the forces of nature, yet none had ever dared to confront both simultaneously. As Arjuna Putra approached the water's edge, the ripples grew, forming twin serpentine shapes that rose from the depths. Naga Api shimmered with silver scales that caught the sunlight, and its eyes glowed with quiet wisdom. Naga Api's scales were deep obsidian, reflecting darkness like liquid night, and its gaze radiated subtle malice. Bearer of the heart mirror, Naga Api's voice echoed, resonant and gentle. You seek the next relic, yet the path is perilous. Only those who understand harmony may proceed. Naga Api hissed, the sound slicing through the air like a blade, or perish. Weakness will drown you, human. Arjuna Putra squared his shoulders. I am not weak. I have faced fear, fire, and shadow. I will face you as well. The Serpent Twins circled him, each leaving waves in the lake that rocked the boat of his journey. Their movements were deliberate, synchronized, as though testing his reflexes, his perception, his resolve. Suddenly, Naga Api lunged forward, fangs bared and shadow flames flickering along its spine. At the same time, Naga Api surged toward him in counter, its body radiant with a protective aura. The two forces collided, sending ripples across the lake, and Arjuna Putra barely leaped aside, the heart mirror clutched tightly. The twin serpents spoke in unison. To claim the relic of the lake, you must undergo the trial of balance. You cannot favor strength over wisdom, nor courage over compassion. Only by harmonizing all will you survive. The waters rose like a tide, forming a vortex around him, pulling him into its crystalline depth. Arjuna Putra felt the chill of the lake seep into his bones. As he struggled, visions appeared in the water's surface. He saw himself, alone, wielding power without mercy, flames and steel consuming all around him. He saw himself paralyzed by indecision, the people suffering while he hesitated. He saw himself surrendering to fear, darkness, claiming Nusantara. The heart mirror pulsed in his hands, radiating warmth. He remembered Barong's teachings, strength guided by compassion, power balanced by wisdom, courage tempered by humility. Balance, he whispered. Only balance can guide me. The lake's waters stilled. Naga Api lowered its head, silver eyes shining. You understand, warrior. Naga, Hidam, coiled, fangs glinting, yet the threat softened. You endure, but do not think shadows are gone. They only wait. From the center of the lake rose a pedestal, carved from black volcanic stone, and upon it rested a glowing relic, the twin orb of Serenity, encased in crystal that refracted light and shadow in perfect equilibrium. Arjuna Putra stepped forward cautiously, placing a hand upon the orb. Energy surged through him, not burning, not slicing, but resonating like a heartbeat in tune with the earth. He could feel the life force of the lake, the mountain above, the air, and the forests. The twin orb was not merely a tool, it was a covenant with nature, a pledge to protect balance. The serpents retracted, bowing simultaneously. You are worthy, Naga Api intoned. You have mastered the trial of balance. Naga Hidam added, but beware. The deeper shadows stir, and Rangdanagara grows stronger. You have gained allies, but darkness has not yet revealed its full strength. Arjuna Putra gazed at the relic, understanding its weight. He did not simply hold power, he carried responsibility for the harmony of the islands. As he prepared to leave, the waters of Lake Batur roiled violently. From the depths, a dark wave surged forward, not a natural occurrence, but the prelude of Rangdanagara's awakening. The shadowy essence hissed, a warning of chaos yet to come. The young hero braced himself. He now possessed two relics, the heart mirror and the twin orb of Serenity. But even together, they were only fragments of the power needed to oppose Rangdanagara. From the horizon, a cold wind swept across the lake, carrying whispers of distant islands and ancient forests, whispers that told him where to journey next. The Eastern Isles, he murmured, where the volcano sleeps and the Naga of fire waits. The twin serpents vanished beneath the tranquil surface, leaving only ripples as the memory of their presence. The journey continued. The trials grew harsher. The island's fate depended on his courage, his wisdom, and the strength of his spirit. With the twin orb secured, Arjuna Putra turned toward the east, toward the next guardian, toward the inevitable confrontation with the shadow that sought to consume Nusantara. Chapter 8. The Volcano of Fire and the Naga Guardian. The journey eastward was not easy. Arjuna Putra and his companions traversed narrow coastal cliffs where the waves of the Banda Sea lashed violently against jagged rocks. The scent of salt and ash mixed in the air, a constant reminder that the islands themselves were alive, ancient, and dangerous. Each step forward carried them closer to the volcano, whose shadow loomed over the eastern isles, Gunung Api, the volcano of fire. Legends whispered that a guardian serpent slept within its molten heart, a creature of flame and stone known as Naga Api. The serpent-esque coils had sealed the relic of the volcano, a crystal of pure fire that could either consume or protect the islands. depending on the hand that wielded it. Many warriors had attempted to claim it, but none had returned. Arjuna Putra's heart was steadfast. He held the heart mirror and the twin orb of Serenity, yet he knew the trial awaiting him would be unlike any before. His steps were guided by instinct, and the wind seemed to carry voices, echoes of ancestors, warnings of spirits, and perhaps whispers from Rangdanagara herself. As they approached the foot of Gunung Api, the ground began to tremble with low rumbles. Smoke rose in curling waves, painting the sky with hues of red and gray. Rocks shifted beneath their feet as the volcano seemed to breathe, alive and aware of their presence. Birds fled in panic. The air itself sizzled with tension. From the shadows of a jagged cliff, a figure emerged. It was Ayun, the herbalist and sage companion who had joined Arjuna Putra at Mount Merapi. Her eyes, always calm, now reflected the intensity of the molten landscape. "Prince," she said, "the volcano does not test strength alone. Naga Api will seek your intentions, your balance, and your courage. You must enter the heart of the fire without fear or desire. Only then will it reveal the relic." Arjuna nodded. He turned to the path leading up the volcano, stones hot beneath his feet. Flames licked the air at irregular intervals, and clouds of smoke obscured the jagged summit. He could feel the Naga's presence long before he saw it, a pulsing energy vibrating through the very rock. Finally, at the mouth of a deep crater, the guardians stirred. Naga Api rose from the molten river at the heart of the volcano, scales shining like flowing magma, eyes glowing with the heat of creation itself. Its voice was a roar of flame and stone. "Bearer of Ugnus flame," the serpent intoned, "you come seeking the crystal. Tell me, why should a mortal touch the power of fire itself?" Arjuna Putra took a deep breath. "I seek the relic, not for power, but to protect the islands and all who dwell within them. Darkness rises, and I am the hand the gods have chosen to oppose it." The Naga narrowed its eyes. Sparks flew from its nostrils, casting shadows that danced across the lava river. "Many have come with words like yours," it hissed. "But words mean nothing without trials. You must endure the fire labyrinth." With a whip of its tail, the volcano erupted. Columns of lava surged upward, splitting the path in multiple directions. Rocks shifted, bridges of stone rose and fell, and molten rivers crisscrossed the terrain. The labyrinth was alive, shifting with the Naga's will. To proceed, Arjuna would have to rely on intuition, balance, and calm. Remembering the lessons of Barong and the Serpent Twins, he centered himself. He held the heart mirror before him. Its light reflected every danger, every shadow, and revealed the safest path. But even this guidance required courage. One false step, one hesitation, and the molten rivers would claim him. As he moved deeper, illusions began to manifest. Fiery apparitions of Rakshasabara appeared along the edges of the lava, reaching for him, tempting him with visions of vengeance and power. Yet Arjuna remained steady. He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the pulse of Naga Api within the volcano. Fire was not his enemy. It was a force to harmonize with, just as water and wind had tested him before. Finally, after what seemed like hours, he reached the center of the labyrinth. There, rising from a column of solidified lava, floated the crimson flame crystal, red, translucent, pulsating with energy that could set the world ablaze or heal its wounds. Naga Api coiled above it, massive head lowered, eyes burning. To claim the crystal, You must confront one truth, the Naga said. If you falter, the fire will consume you. What is it? Arjuna Putra met its gaze. I am not the fire, I am its guardian. I am balance. I will wield its energy only to protect life, never to destroy recklessly. The Naga's eyes glowed brighter, and then it bowed. Very well, the crystal is yours. But remember, fire obeys only those who respect its essence. Misuse it, and even the gods may not save you. With a ripple of molten energy, the crimson flame crystal descended into Arjuna's hands. Warmth flowed through him, harmonizing with the heart mirror and the twin orb. 3 relics now rested with him. Yet he knew the trials were far from over. As he turned to leave, a tremor shook the summit. Smoke spiraled high into the sky, carrying an ominous scent. Far to the east, a shadow stretched over the islands. Rangdanagara had stirred once more. Her army of corrupted spirits and dark forces was gathering. Arjuna Putra clenched the crimson flame crystal. The wind carried a distant roar, not the Naga, but the roar of war, chaos, and an approaching darkness. East, he whispered. The Eastern Isles, the final guardians, await. And so, the journey continued. The islands of Nusantara, trembling beneath the steps of the young hero and the awakening shadow of Rangdanagara. With 3 relics now in his possession, Arjuna Putra prepared to face trials that would test not just his courage, but the very spirit of the archipelago itself. Chapter 9: The Eastern Isles and the Temple of Shadows. Arjuna Putra sailed eastward at dawn, the crimson flame crystal resting securely in his pack, the heart mirror and twin orb of Serenity shining with quiet light. The Eastern Isles lay beyond the horizon, shrouded in mist and mystery, whispered in legends as the home of Rangdanagara's most loyal generals and the guardians of darkness that had long slumbered beneath volcanic peaks and dense jungles. The waters grew choppier as they neared the isles. Waves battered the hull of the Jukong, and the wind carried a chill unfamiliar to the tropical seas of Java and Bali. Every gust seemed to whisper warnings, as if the sea itself remembered the ancient battles fought in its depths. The sailors, though seasoned, grew uneasy. Even Arjuna Putra, steady in heart and mind, felt the pulse of impending peril. When they arrived, the islands were cloaked in a thick, unnatural fog. The sun struggled to pierce it, and shadows seemed to move of their own accord. Trees twisted into shapes that resembled claws, and distant volcanoes exhaled black smoke, as if exhaling despair itself. The air vibrated with the low hum of restless spirits. Arjuna Putra disembarked, stepping onto the obsidian black sand that burned lightly beneath his feet. He felt the weight of all 3 relics, their combined energy thrumming like a heartbeat. They were his only protection. Yet he understood instinctively that they alone would not be enough to confront the darkness here. Ahead lay the Temple of Shadows, half buried beneath overgrown vines and jagged stone. Carvings of serpents, lions, and winged creatures adorned its entrance, each a silent testament to the guardians who had once protected this land. Rangdanagara had claimed this temple centuries ago, corrupting it with her magic, turning its halls into a labyrinth of illusions and traps. Arjuna hesitated at the threshold. The heart mirror reflected not just his own image, but the faint outlines of shadows lurking within the temple, coiled and waiting. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. Inside, darkness swallowed him. The walls seemed to breathe, the floor shifted like liquid, and corridors stretched farther than logic allowed. Whispers called to him from unseen mouths, voices of doubt, fear, and regret. Every step became a test of focus and will. Suddenly, the shadows coalesced into a massive figure, Kaliwara, the Lieutenant of Darkness, a being born of nightmare and malice. Its body was a tangle of serpents, each head hissing, fangs dripping with venom. Its eyes glowed red with hunger for the relics Arjuna carried. "You carry the light," it hissed, voice echoing through the temple. "But light cannot exist here. This place belongs to shadows, and shadows obey Rangdanagara alone." Arjuna tightened his grip on the crimson flame crystal. The orb glowed fiercely, warming his hands. He raised the heart mirror, and its light shimmered against the darkness, revealing Kaliwara's many forms. The twin orb of Serenity pulsed with stabilizing energy, and the illusions began to fracture, showing the true paths within the labyrinth. The battle erupted. Kaliwara struck with all its serpentine heads, each attack a test of reflex, strength, and cunning. Arjuna Putra dodged, parried, and countered. But he realized quickly that brute force alone would not suffice. The shadows fed on aggression, twisting every strike into chaos. He remembered the lessons from the Guardians: balance, wisdom, and harmony. Instead of attacking, he allowed the shadows to pass through the heart mirror's light, letting their energy flow harmlessly into the twin orb. Slowly, Kaliwara's form began to waver, the many serpents retreating into their own reflections. But then the temple itself reacted. Walls twisted violently, the ceiling rumbled, and molten darkness pooled at his feet. The lieutenant was not defeated. It had merged with the temple, becoming one with the shadows. "You are clever," it hissed, "but the darkness is endless. Even with the relics, you will not stop Rangdanagara." Arjuna Putra's eyes narrowed. He raised the crimson flame crystal, channeling its energy into the heart mirror and the twin orb simultaneously. Flames and light intertwined, creating a pillar of radiant energy that surged through the temple. The shadow-laden walls shattered, and the illusions dissolved. Kaliwara screamed as its form disintegrated into flickering shadows, retreating to the farthest corners of the eastern isles. The temple fell silent. Arjuna Putra stood alone, exhausted yet victorious. He now carried the power and insight to confront Rangdanagara herself. The three relics pulsed in unison, each amplifying the other, the heart mirror reflecting truth, the twin orb preserving balance, and the crimson flame crystal igniting courage. From the depths of the temple, a voice echoed cold, ancient, and undeniably powerful. "So, the mortal rises. You have passed the trials of light, balance, and fire. But the greatest challenge awaits. Come to the heart of the Eastern Isles and face me, Arjuna Putra. Come before Rangdanagara, and the fate of Nusantara will be decided." The message resonated deep within him, shaking the ground beneath his feet. He knew the time had come. The shadow was gathering its strength, and only one confrontation would determine the future of the islands. Stepping out of the temple, he gazed across the eastern isles. Volcanoes smoked in the distance. Dense jungles shifted like living creatures, and the wind carried faint, haunting whispers. Arjuna Putra tightened his grip on the relics. "It ends soon," he whispered. "The shadow will rise, and I will be ready." And so, with the eastern sun casting long shadows across the jagged terrain, the hero prepared for the final chapters of his journey, where the forces of light and darkness would clash, and the destiny of Nusantara would be revealed. Chapter 10: The Shadow's Ascent the eastern isles were cloaked in a heavy twilight. The skies painted with streaks of violet and blood red as the sun sank behind jagged volcanic peaks. Arjuna Putra stood on the cliffs overlooking the archipelago, the three relics glowing faintly in the dim light: Heart Mirror, Twin Orb of Serenity, and the Crimson Flame Crystal. Together, they formed the triad of power he would need to confront Rangdanagara herself. Yet even in this moment of preparation, a chill ran through him. The islands whispered warnings, rustling leaves, murmuring waters, the faint echo of wings slicing the horizon. The shadows were moving. Darkness was consolidating. Far to the north, atop Gunung Rong, Rangdanagara gathered her forces. She was no longer merely a witch of legend. She had become a living vortex of corruption, her powers fueled by centuries of hatred and ambition. Beneath her command, spirits of the fallen, corrupted warriors, and ancient demons rose from their tombs, forming an army that could consume mountains and rivers alike. The wind carried her voice across the cliffs, sharp, commanding, and cold. "Arjuna Putra," she hissed, "you have gathered relics and faced guardians. You have survived the trials of fire, water, and spirit. But now you will see the futility of mortal courage. My shadow is eternal, and Nusantara will bow." Arjuna tightened his grip on the crimson flame crystal. Flames danced along his fingers as he lifted the heart mirror before him. The twin orb of Serenity pulsed in response, and for a moment, light and balance intertwined, forming a radiant aura that pushed the approaching shadows back. But Rangdanagara's power was immense. The darkness did not falter. It coalesced into a towering form, a silhouette of malice and ancient wrath. Her presence distorted the air, bending light and creating illusions that made the land itself appear alive with terror. Arjuna knew that facing her head-on would be fatal. He had learned the lessons of the guardians. Strength without wisdom would be his undoing, and courage without balance would be hollow. To confront her, he needed strategy, insight, and the unshakable heart of a hero. He descended into the eastern jungles, moving stealthily through tangled roots and overgrown paths. Each step was a test. Shadows attempted to ensnare him, phantoms of past fears and failures crawling from the foliage to distract him. He raised the heart mirror, and its light cut through the illusions, revealing the true path ahead. At the edge of a sacred river, the twin forces of light and darkness clashed in the reflections on the water's surface. Arjuna knelt and whispered a prayer to Barong and the Naga twins. The river responded, its currents stabilizing as the twin orb pulsed, harmonizing the energies. The balance of nature itself seemed to aid him. Finally, he arrived at the temple of the Shadow Heart, Rangdanagara's stronghold. The air was thick with corruption. The walls seemed to breathe, and every step he took echoed like a drumbeat of doom. Within the temple, Rangdanagara awaited, her form partially obscured by swirling dark energy. Her eyes glowed red, twin flames of power and hatred. "You have come far," she said, voice like breaking ice. "But this is the end of your journey. Hand over the relics, and I may grant you mercy." Arjuna did not waver. "The relics are not for power. They exist to protect Nusantara. I will not yield to darkness." With a wave of her hand, Rangdanagara unleashed a torrent of shadow energy, striking the floor with force that shattered stone and sent debris flying. Arjuna countered with the crimson flame crystal, projecting a shield of molten light. Sparks and embers flew, colliding with the creeping shadows, forming a storm of fire and darkness that roared through the temple. The heart mirror reflected the illusions Rangdanagara conjured, and the twin orb stabilized the chaos, creating pockets of calm amidst the storm. Yet, even with all three relics, the battle was not won. The dark sorceress was more than a single opponent. She was a living embodiment of fear, cunning, and relentless malice. Arjuna remembered the lessons of the fire labyrinth, the Serpent Twins, and the heart mirror trial. Confrontation was not always about destroying the enemy. Sometimes it was about understanding, balance, and exploiting the enemy's overconfidence. He began to move, not with brute force, but with precision, striking where shadows were weakest, redirecting energy, and using Rangdanagara's own illusions against her. The battle raged for hours. Each strike of light was met with a counter of darkness. The temple shook, stone and soil twisting as if alive, responding to the immense energies unleashed. Arjuna felt his strength tested to the limits. Fatigue gnawed at his body, but his resolve remained unbroken. Then, amidst the chaos, he saw it, the core of Rangdanagara's power, a dark crystal pulsating at her chest, the source of her shadows. If he could shatter it, the remaining darkness would falter. With a final surge of courage, he combined the relic's powers. The heart mirror reflected the truth of her corruption. The twin orb harmonized the storm of energy, and the crimson flame crystal erupted in a blaze that pierced the shadows. He focused on the core, projecting all his strength, wisdom, and heart into a single strike. The crystal shattered with a deafening roar. Shadows recoiled, screams of the corrupted echoing as they dissolved into nothingness. Rangdanagara shrieked, her form faltering, her power unraveling like threads in a storm. Arjuna stood, exhausted but resolute, as the temple began to crumble around him. Light filled the hall, a testament to balance, courage, and the enduring spirit of the hero. Nusantara was free for now, but Arjuna knew the darkness could rise again. He had faced the shadow's ascent and lived to stand against it. Chapter 11: The Final Guardians and the Temple of Light after the shattering of Rangdanagara's dark crystal. A fragile calm settled over the eastern isles, yet Arjuna Putra knew this calm was deceptive. Darkness, though weakened, was cunning and patient. The final relic awaited, one that could amplify the power of the others and seal Rangdanagara's fate once and for all. Legends spoke of the Temple of Light, hidden in the clouds atop Gunung Mahamero, the highest peak in Nusantara. Its guardians were not beasts or spirits, but celestial entities, the last test of courage, wisdom, and balance. To reach it, Arjuna would have to cross treacherous forests, icy peaks, and sacred rivers, each flowing with the essence of ancient magic. Accompanied by Ayun, he journeyed north. The path was perilous. Avalanches threatened on the high slopes, and fierce winds tore at their cloaks. Yet the relic's combined power radiated, a protective aura, guiding their steps and warding off minor spirits drawn to Rangdanagara's lingering influence. By the fourth day, they reached the foot of the cloud-shrouded mountain. The air grew thin, cold, and heavy, each breath a test of endurance. Arjuna's eyes scanned the horizon. Distant rays of sunlight pierced the mist, illuminating a golden structure perched atop the peak, the Temple of Light. Its towers gleamed, carved from stones that seemed to glow with the first dawn of creation. At the temple's entrance stood the final guardians, two massive figures clad in silver armor, faces obscured by radiant masks. One wielded a sword of blazing light, the other a shield that reflected not only attacks but intentions. Bearer of the relics, intoned the guardian of the sword. We test not your strength alone, but the unity of your spirit. The light cannot serve one who is divided. The guardian of the shield spoke, voice echoing through the mountain air. Your courage is known, your wisdom proven, but your heart, is it balanced? Can you wield all that you carry without succumbing to pride, fear, or doubt? Arjuna Putra stepped forward, holding the heart mirror before him. The twin orb glimmered in his left hand, the crimson flame crystal in his right. I carry them not for myself, but for Nusantara. My heart is open, my will guided by balance and justice. The guardians circled him slowly. The ground vibrated with their movements. Suddenly, the sword struck forward, and the shield moved to intercept, a simulation of battle designed to test reflexes, strategy, and composure. Arjuna dodged, parried, and redirected energy with precision. Every move was calculated, every breath intentional. He was not merely fighting, he was harmonizing with the guardians, letting the light guide him rather than controlling it. The trial escalated. The sword released bursts of blazing energy. The shield generated walls of reflective brilliance. Arjuna's relics responded in kind. The heart mirror multiplied the light. The twin orb stabilized the flow, and the crimson flame crystal focused his intent into pure energy. Finally, the guardians stopped. They lowered their weapons and removed their masks. Beneath, their faces glowed with serene wisdom. You have passed, said the guardian of the shield. The relic of light is yours, the final piece needed to confront Rangdanagara from the temple's inner sanctum. A pedestal emerged, bathed in golden radiance. Upon it rested a crystal, the radiant Sunstone. Its surface pulsed like a living heartbeat, radiating warmth, clarity, and undeniable power. Arjuna approached, feeling the Sunstone's energy resonate with the three relics he already carried. He placed his hands upon it. A surge of light enveloped him, fusing the relic's power into a single, harmonious force. He felt strength, clarity, and wisdom intertwining, a perfect union of the elemental and the divine. But before he could leave, a tremor shook the temple. Shadows seeped through the walls, the lingering essence of Rangdanagara, drawn by the Sunstone's awakening. Her form appeared, towering and furious, even without the dark crystal. You think you have one, she spat, voice like tearing silk. The light cannot stop the darkness. I am eternal. Arjuna Putra raised the newly united relics. Light burst forth, pure and unwavering, illuminating the mountain and dispersing the shadows. He remembered the lessons of every guardian he had faced, Barong, the Serpent Twins, Naga Api, and even Kaliwara. Strength alone was insufficient. Only balance, courage, and wisdom combined could vanquish the shadow. He channeled the power of all four relics into a single strike. The combined energy struck Rangdanagara, overwhelming her essence. She shrieked, a sound that shook the heavens and the earth, then dissipated like mist under the morning sun. The darkness that had threatened Nusantara for centuries finally faltered. Light filled the temple, the mountain, and the valleys below. Arjuna Putra stood victorious, yet humble. His journey had tested his body, mind, and soul, and he had emerged not only as a hero, but as a guardian of balance. The final guardians bowed. The relics are now united, the light restored, and the island's fate secured. Arjuna nodded. The journey is complete, yet vigilance remains. Darkness may rise again, but so long as courage, wisdom and balance endure, Nusantara will survive. With the radiant Sunstone in his possession, and the other relics secure, Arjuna Putra descended from Gunung Mahameru. The islands stretched before him, peaceful yet alive, with the pulse of nature and magic. The archipelago had been saved, for now, by the courage of a single mortal who had embraced destiny, conquered fear, and learned the harmony of power and spirit. Chapter 12. The Return of Light. The eastern sun rose over Nusantara, casting golden light across the archipelago. Volcanoes, forests, rivers, and seas shimmered as if awakening from a long, dark slumber. Arjuna Putra, carrying the 4 united relics, the heart mirror, the twin orb of serenity, the crimson flame crystal, and the radiant sunstone, stood atop Gunung Mahameru, surveying the lands he had fought to protect. Peace, however, was not merely the absence of shadow, it was balance. And Arjuna knew that the harmony he had restored had been hard won. Every battle, every trial, every confrontation with darkness had left its mark on him, forging courage tempered with wisdom. When he arrived in the villages of the Eastern Isles, people emerged from their homes, faces pale from fear, but now lighting with hope. Children ran freely, rivers sparkled with clarity, and the forests seemed to breathe in relief. The relic's light was not just a weapon, it was a beacon, a promise that the world could endure. Yet Arjuna's task was not complete. The relic's powers had to be restored to their rightful resting places to ensure the balance remained. Guided by the wisdom of Barong and the final guardians, he traveled from island to island, returning each relic to its guardian. The heart mirror to Barong in Bali, the twin orb to the Serpent Twins of Lake Batur, the crimson flame crystal to Naga Api within Gunung Api, and the radiant sunstone to the Temple of Light atop Gunung Mahameru. With each relic returned, the land seemed to breathe more freely. Volcanoes slept peacefully, rivers flowed pure, forests grew vibrant, and the spirits of Nusantara sang songs of renewal. Finally, Arjuna Putra stood alone, gazing at the horizon. The islands were safe, the shadows vanquished, and the relics protected by the guardians who had tested him so rigorously. He felt the weight of his journey, the trials of spirit and courage, and the truth of Barong's first lesson: balance above all else. As he closed his eyes, a vision appeared before him, the faint outline of Rangdanagara, diminished yet still present in the distant mists. She was a reminder, not of fear, but of vigilance. Darkness would always exist, but so too would the light, embodied by heroes willing to face it. A gentle wind swept over him, carrying the scent of frangipani and salt, the songs of the ocean, and the whispers of the forests. The voice of Barong echoed softly in his mind: "Your journey has ended, Arjuna Putra, but the legacy of your courage, wisdom, and balance will endure. Nusantara is safe for now, and the people will remember the light you restored." Arjuna opened his eyes, feeling the warmth of the sun, the steady pulse of the earth beneath him, and the harmony of the islands around him. He had faced the trials of fire, water, shadow, and spirit. He had embraced fear, mastered balance, and conquered darkness without surrendering his soul. With a final glance at the archipelago, he descended from Gunung Mahameru, carrying no relics in his hands, but the memory of their power and the knowledge that true strength came not from force, but from the union of heart, mind, and courage. The villages he passed celebrated his return, but Arjuna did not linger. He walked with quiet humility, knowing the light he had restored was shared among all of Nusantara in the people, the forests, the rivers, and the mountains. By the time he reached his home village, the sun had fully risen, casting golden rays across the fields. Children laughed, elders nodded in gratitude, and the air was alive with peace. Arjuna Putra smiled faintly, the journey's weight behind him, the lessons etched into his soul. That night, as he gazed at the stars, he felt the guardian's presence. Barong in Bali, the Serpent Twins in Batur Naga Api within Gunung Api, and the spirits of the Temple of Light, all watching, all guiding. The islands had been saved, not by one hero alone, but by the harmony between mortal courage and the eternal forces of Nusantara. And in that quiet moment, Arjuna Putra understood the final truth of his epic journey. The light he had restored was not only in relics, rivers, and volcanoes, but within every heart willing to face shadow with courage, wisdom, and balance. Thus ended the great saga of Nusantara, a tale of gods, demons, heroes, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. Yet even as the shadows faded, the story remained alive, whispered among the forests, sung by the rivers, and remembered in the hearts of all who dwell in the islands of Indonesia. Arjuna Putra had returned, light had been restored. Nusantara, for now, would endure.